We're back at Wellesley for a moment, and that's their grandfather.
We're back, but we haven't actually been there yet.
You haven't been there. But this is the house that Grandma and Grandfather built in Wellesley Hills, where my mother grew up. And they're sitting on the porch there, next door to Uncle Art's house. Now, I'm wondering if this couldn't be just possibly Hulbert. And Hulbert, there are very few photographs of him.
Who is Hulbert?
He is my grandmother's older brother, with whom she had almost no contact, and violent arguments, and my mother felt that it had to do with the fact that Hulbert seemed too black for her. That was my mother's feeling. And you don't get any pictures of him close enough to have any sense of it, but he has the same attitude as his father. I mean, body language, just totally different from all the people around in this Anglo community that he grew up in. This, I think, is my grandmother.
On a boat.
Yeah. These are two pictures, I think, give you a sense of her being a black woman, just in her style. This one, and even more the one on the other side. I mean, you know, to me, it's sort of obvious, but not everybody sees it. It was interesting because I came back and discussed it after my mother died in '76. I went back and saw her cousins next door. And I talked to them about this, and at first they professed to know nothing about it. And then the next morning, Anne came down to breakfast and said, "You know, Cindy, I remember what you were telling me yesterday, and I got thinking. You know, my mother always used to say that Harriet would be so beautiful if it weren't for that negroid nose of hers." So that was the only open thing, apparently, that was exchanged, but my mother got the sense of it from a lot of people when she was a child. This is my grandmother feeding me, I assume. We come to a picture of grandmother in her old age,
Her grandson.
grandson-in-law,
Mm-hmm.
and her great-grandson. Look at her body type there. Let me tell you that after she died here in Berkeley, I missed her a lot. And I would occasionally see an old lady trying to cross the street, and I would go and help her, just thinking of my grandmother. And it was always a black woman. And that was before I ever knew that my grandmother was black, you know? The first pictures we have of the Holden family are of Joel Holden Sr. Does it say there when he was born?
No,
Okay.
not here.
But he was the same generation as John Oldham of Pembroke. Joel Holden Jr. was the one who wrote to Abraham Lincoln.
Oh, the note, the frame note we have
Yes.
is from him. This
was
one
from
here.
him. Right.
Mhm.
Look at him next to his son. All right, that's his sister Augusta, his older sister. He was the youngest in the family.
George Warren Holden.
Yeah, Augusta, and I think there was Mariah and
So we've got three generations here.
this. Joel Holden Sr. and Fidelia Myrick, his wife.
Mm-hmm.
Then you have Joe Holden Jr. and George Warren Holden.
So what did these people do? Do you know?
I don't know what their occupations were. I never did. But George Warren Holden started the Holden Patent Book Cover Company, which made book covers for all the school children in the United States for a few generations.
Now this is this fellow here, Joel Holden Jr. And this says
And
Joel
that's
Holden
George.
Jr. as an older man, I suppose.
His wife was Persis Estabrook, of whom there is no picture. Now, what does it say?
It says here the grave of Colonel Benjamin Holden, born March 15th, 1729, died November 24th, 1820. Princeton, Mass. Father of Joel Holden Sr. Okay.
Okay.
Who
And
took
the
that
one,
picture?
And the one who had pew 76. Now there's Augusta Holden there.
So who
That's
was Augusta
George
Holden?
Warren's older sister. And there is a picture of George Warren Holden's wife's birthplace, Persis Estabrook. No picture of her ever anywhere in any of the stuff. Just one of these mysterious things. Okay, here's a picture that I've always been very fond of Augusta and George Warren Holden. I think it's kind of nice.
Augusta's looking pretty stern.
Yeah. The girls, I've never been able to tell whether they don't seem to show the signs as far as I can tell from the photographs, but I have no real idea of the background. No, I think this is just probably in write up about him. Maybe
It says Joel Holden was the next oldest citizen of Dayton. The oldest citizen of Dayton passes to his reward. Joel Holden, who celebrated his birthday but a few days ago is no more, was too old to enlist and couldn't go to war. This is dated August 26, 1899. Okay, so this would have been George Warren Holden's father.
the one you're named after, Joel Holden. Oh, no, I was going to show you the Squirrel Hunters. The Squirrel Hunters was the name of a group of young men, I think from Squirrel Island, who tried to join the Civil War. And I think George Warren Holden wrote some little thing about it. They didn't get very far. They weren't really in the army, but this is their picture anyway.
We've got names of everybody here. Phelps and Alfred McDaniel.
But that's his cousin from Worcester, Mass. I can't remember his name. Harry Whitcomb, maybe.
Harry Whitcomb, yeah, at the bottom.
And he's from Worcester, Mass. Now, I think if anyone doubts the genesis of George Warren Holden, they look at that bottom picture on the left, and I think that has to be a black man. Not all the pictures of him look like that. When my mother told me, I thought she admitted that she had been having these nightmares, and she was talking about her grandfather being black. And I said, come on, Peggy, what do you mean? And, because nobody ever suggested this to me. And she said, well, it's true. And they used to tease me when I was a child and so forth, children's school and so forth. And I said, come on, Peggy, give me the family photographs. She brought me over this stack of photographs. I went through it, and when I saw that one, I said, she's right. And then I tried it out on various other people. But she had various things to say, and then between what her cousin also said about what her Aunt Anne used to say and so forth. I mean, this was clearly something that people thought, but they didn't talk about. And I've later decided, by looking at pictures from Squirrel Island and remembering people there were a number of people on Squirrel Island about whom one might say the same thing. And they tended to come from the South, or no further north than Philadelphia. And it was almost as though there were a haven for people of color who were passing and who felt comfortable with each other. And I can think of quite a few families on the island about whom this is true. And I've talked to one or two people, and some deny it stoutly, and others say they know what I mean, and they think maybe it's so, including my friend Janet that I visited there. Sometimes she said, I think I'm black. And I said, well, I've always thought that. Shocked her. But, we've talked about it a lot. Anyway. George Warren Holden and his wife, Annie Charlotte Hulbert Holden, were the parents of 4 children. The first was Hulbert Percy Holden. The second was Harriet Eleanor Holden, my grandmother. Then Miles, and finally the youngest was Anna. who was 20 years younger than Anna Carter Holden. It was interesting because George Warren Holden was her father, and she married someone named Warren, so she was Anna Holden Warren. This is a big family picture in front of Sweetbriar, Grandpa Holden's house that he built.
It says Miles. It says H-E-H.
That's Harriet Eleanor Holden.
So that
That's
would be
my
here.
grandmother. Okay.
Florence McKnight.
That was her best friend.
Okay. Eleanor Brown.
Eleanor Brown is George Warren Holden's older sister. There's Aunt Eleanor, Aunt Mariah.
Okay, Aunt
And
Eleanor
Augusta.
Brown must be this one.
Okay.
Stuart Crampton.
Yeah, I think he was the son of one of the other sisters. Augusta? No, that was Augusta Houck.
Well, there's Aunt Augusta Houck is standing next to him.
I see, okay. Well, I'm not sure, but
Then
Stuart
there's-
Crampton is a relative.
Then there's ACH.
Her mother.
Her
That's
mother.
George Warren Holden's wife, Annie Charlotte Hulbert.
And Louise McIntyre.
McIntyre. I never knew cousin Louie, but her daughter Persis lived in Worcester, Mass. And
Louis McIntyre.
yeah, and that was already an interesting family too. Her husband, Louis McIntyre's husband, Winthrop, was a very interesting old man when I met him. He was about 95, and he died soon afterwards. But when I went to art school in Worcester, I stayed for a week or two with Persis, and she helped me find a place to stay.
Well, Persis is...
Cousin Persis, she's just a little girl.
Yeah, she's listed here right next to George Warren Holden.
Yeah.
And then Anna, that would be
Yeah.
your grandmother's sister, right?
Right.
And then this one here is Aunt Maria.
Aunt Mariah.
Aunt Mariah. It looks like a G-U-N-I-P. That can't be.
Gump.
Gump.
Yes,
Aunt Mariah Gump.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah.
And we did miss Aunt Mary Miles over here, which would
Yeah.
be this one here, right?
Yeah, so there was Mariah and Mary and Eleanor and Augusta. I don't know, there were 4 or 5 sisters, his older sisters anyway.
Okay. In front of Sweetbriar.
Yeah.
And we
so it
have
was a party.
Anna, Miles up here, Molly.
Molly was Molly Brown, married
Married who?
Miles.
These two.
And but this was one of the few divorces in the family. They were divorced after a few years, and it turned out the family all liked Molly better than Miles. Miles got somewhat the same treatment as Hulbert. They didn't really like him that much.
Well, here's George Warren Holden, and then this one is ACH.
That's his wife, Annie Charlotte Hulbert.
And,
Right.
and MAO.
Margaret Anna Oldham.
So
My mother, that's Peggy.
So that was his granddaughter.
Yes.
Well, George Warren Holden's in the middle, and you've got
And they
his 4 sisters. Yeah, you have, here's Augusta, Mariah, George Warren Holden, Mary, and Eleanor Holden. They all look so severe, and they're all dressed in matching black
this is
gowns.
what I mean. And when you see George Warren Holden, he's a totally different style guy. You could say laid back. It's not the style that he emerged from.